Artists create art to respond to the society and the culture. Artists create art to respond to how our current time shapes our experience of the world we live in. Hey there guys, welcome back to Harman Art TV. So in this video, I'd like to talk about why do visual artists create art inspired by the times they live in. So let's get to this. So I haven't done a video like this in a while. I've just been really busy kind of working on other projects, but I think for me, like as an artist, I'm always really curious about where the art world is currently, and our kind of like perceptions of it, our perceptions of art, different types of artworks, and how it kind of fits into this current time frame that we live in, and you know, what is its importance, its significance in the world that we live in. But yeah, I mean, I got my notes again, but yeah, why do artists create art inspired by the times that they live in? I was doing quite a bit of research online and really digging deep onto my own kind of self-beliefs and ideas about this. And, you know, for centuries, artists have created art. You know, if you look back to like the Stone Age, you know, artists were creating art in caves, you know, cave drawings. And, you know, they were, you know, what were these drawings? You know, these drawings were like of animals, you know, of like buffalo. And they were just kind of reflecting, you know, the world around them and their way of life. You know, obviously back then it was people were hunting, you know, they were primarily hunting, gathering food, making shelter for themselves. So this is kind of like a reflection of their lifestyle. And I guess at the time this had a big kind of significance for them because this is what drove their current way of life. So for centuries, artists have created this kind of art, from cave drawings to paintings to sculpture to public art, installation art. And you know, visual artists create art for a number of reasons. And what I've kind of come across is that artists create art. You know, I've listed down a variety of bullet points as to why I think artists create art, and after doing some research and really digging deep. So artists create art to respond to the society and the culture in which they live in. Artists create art to respond to political events. Artists create art to respond to wars and human rights issues. Artists create art to respond to humanity's identity and diversity. Artists create art to respond to technological achievements. Artists create art to respond to how our current time shapes our experience of the world we live in. So these are some of the key kind of features that I kind of discovered while researching, you know, why do artists create art inspired by the times where we live in. And you can probably go back to some of the videos that I have in my channel, talking about some of the artists that I find inspirational, because in there you get little snippets of information about what made those artists significant. Like the previous video, talking about Erro, the Icelandic pop artist. Obviously he's not living in Iceland anymore, he migrated, but Icelandic, you know, place of birth. But you know, you can kind of get the sense like why artists like him created art, and for his case he created art, you know, to respond to the current political times he was living in and all the wars going on and the culture that was kind of flourishing in that era. But you can see that, you can watch that video. I'll put a link in the description below But that's just an example of why, artists do this, why they are creating art by the times that they live in. But I just find it, fascinating to understand why artists create art inspired by the times they live in. When you really dig deep into it, you realize there's more kind of meaning than what you see on the surface. Yeah, so if you like this video and would like to watch more videos like this, you're welcome to subscribe to my channel. My name is Martin Harman. I'm an artist based in the UK, and in this channel you'll find videos ranging from educational art-related topics, my views about the art world, the making of my artworks, art movies, and much more. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified about future videos when I post them. So I was going to, talk about, why do I create art inspired by the times that we live in? After thinking about, this in like a broad sense about why other artists might do this, I started thinking about, okay, why do I create art inspired by the times I live in? And it doesn't really, well, it does and it does, but some of my art is more literal in being inspired by the times we live in, whereas some of my art is more kind of a bit more abstract, but still has that kind of roots in this reality. But I'll start with a little bit of background about myself growing up. When I was younger, I always felt like an outsider, not really fitting into the mainstream of society. I've always had this kind of curiosity about the world I live in, and I always kind of felt that I looked at the world from the outside in. I don't know why I've had this. I don't know why. I just always, and I guess that's why I create art, but I've always felt like an outsider looking at society from the outside in. I've always kind of been fascinated about how this world works, this kind of construction that we live in, and why things run the way they do. And I guess it's probably for this reason that I started pursuing art. But at the same time, I've always been interested in making things. So creating art for me is a way to respond not only to my life experience, but also the world around me. For example, this painting behind me, Timescape, one of my latest paintings, I created it to respond to ideas around technological innovations that are happening in the world, like robotics, AI, virtual reality, freedom of information, and knowledge and digital innovations. It's a comment on the blurring of the lines between the physical world and the digital world. It is a reflection of this innovation, but at the same time it's presented in a way that is similar to a landscape. So this kind of blurring of the lines between reflecting on the world around me, but being a hybrid between this and like a landscape. But importantly, I created this painting behind me to leave space for the imagination. I don't want this painting to be one-sided and to say that technology will transform our lives for the better. But instead, I just want to leave space for people to bring their own decisions about what they're seeing. And that goes with, quite a lot of my art. Sometimes I draw inspiration from the world around me, but I want to leave space for the imagination. I don't want to say like, this is how I see the world and you should see it like this too. I'd like you to bring your own way of seeing, your own ideas to it. So that's a little bit about why I create art inspired by the times that we live in. This is why I believe art is really important. And you might think, in this day and age, like, who needs art? You know, you look at the current situation in the world at the moment, you know, you got, you know, cutbacks in funding for arts and culture, like here in the UK, you know, might be happening in other countries as well, because of the current times that we live in. And, you know, I think the arts and culture will always get pushed aside in times like these. But then you look to, like, I'm reminded of like previous times in history, like the Italian Renaissance, you know, where the arts and culture was flourishing. I was even researching a bit of information about like the Ming Dynasty and how, you know, during that era the arts and craft also flourished. So these kind of arts and crafts, or arts and culture as well, would also flourish in times of kind of prosperity in a country. And so it's kind of, it's interesting, like, thinking about how art kind of fits in to our current way of life, and how our perceptions change about it depending on our current situation that we live in.
We interrupt this video to plug an ad. But anyway, I just thought I'd let you know that recently I've been creating a series of greeting cards inspired by my original artworks, and they're all left blank inside to create your own message and come with an envelope. And the print quality is really nice, really happy with the way these have turned out. But if that's something that interests you, you're welcome to check them out on my website at martinharmanart.com. You can also find the link in the description below.
So when I think about it, you know, art is inspired by the times that we live in, to leave space to the imagination, to think about our shared experience of the world. I create art to be inspired by the times we live in, to not only be relevant now, but also relevant for centuries to come. You know, and that's the thing, when you look at old masterpieces today and taking back to the period of that time, and left to think about my own time frame. And I think that is really, that is really powerful, you know, that art can do that. You know, just going back to thinking about history and how art kind of flourished in different countries in different time periods, depending on different situations within that country. And, you know, you realize, like, the art has a way of encapsulating that time, those values of that time, that aspiration of the people and their identity of that time, or even capturing the situation of that time, whether it be good or bad. And so I believe that art is a powerful tool to inspire new perceptions of the world around us. And I believe that's another reason why artists create art inspired by the times we live in. It's almost like this loop, this feedback loop. You know, we live in this kind of, like, it's almost like we live in this, like, this perpetual circle, you know, where information goes from one thing, feeds into the arts then regurgitates that, feeds it back into the world, and then people take those ideas and feed it into something else, like architecture or something else, and then those ideas get fed back into art. So it's like this perpetual cycle, and I think that's what's really important about the arts. And I think that's really important in terms of thinking about, why do visual artists create art inspired by the times they live in? But anyway, I thought I'd put this out there, and because I think, for me, I find this really fascinating to really dig deep into this, into why like artists do this. Why do we create art inspired by the times we live in? What is its significance, its purpose? What is its meaning? How is it going to be viewed now, and how is it going to be viewed in centuries to come? And so I hope that kind of sheds some light on the topic, and that it gives you a bit more kind of food for thought. I hope that's given you some value in some way, and that you can take something from this. For me, like, what I've realized is, like, information is really valuable, and YouTube is, or videos like on YouTube is great, that we can share this kind of information. So it also contributes to that kind of that cycle of information, whether you agree or disagree. It's information that gets you thinking. Anyway, I hope this video has been useful for you. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.